Good morning, everyone. First of all, I would like to thank the University of Cambridge for organizing this conference and giving me the opportunity to make a presentation. But it's a pity that I cannot be there in person. Secondly, I would like to thank the chairs, Jiao and Pedro, for organizing this session. The topic I'm presenting today is Archaeology and Resilience, a case study, the resilience, transformation, and collapse of Erlitou culture from the perspective of archaeology. We all know that archaeology is uniquely suited to the study of the cultures or civilization or so-called people without history that have disappeared in the past. Through the study and the interpretation of material, archaeology can help us to basically recover the development process of the Asian society, thus providing lessons for the general public in today's society. However, archaeology still has a long way to go in terms of the knowledge dissemination. So due to the time constraints, I will omit the introductory section on the theory part. In short, social collapse refers to the integration, separation, and reconstruction of the cultural and the political boundaries of society. Most notably, the disappearance or disintegration of political boundaries. Social transformation, on the other hand, refers to the social and political responses and the corresponding social phenomena. And social resilience includes political and cultural resilience. So the decline and the Erlitou site is located in the Yanshi Luoyang, Henan province, which is the central plain of China. The site was discovered in the late 1950s. The discovery of this site was not accidental, but rather a search for the capital of the Xia dynasty. So since its discovery, the question of the properties of the site and the material culture it represents has been the focus of the research to the exclusion of the interpretation of the material cultures itself. The decline and the collapse of the Erlitou culture has long been neglected in comparison to the origin of the Erlitou culture. In Chinese archaeology, cultural factors analysis as a basic method provides material evidence for our study of the cultural transmission and the cultural resilience. However, how cultural and political resilience presents itself in the change and even collapse of society is often only briefly mentioned. The absolute date of the Erlitou culture is 1750 to 1560 BCE, and the phases is divided into 4 phases of the culture. In the first phase, the Erlitou site was only 1 million square meters. From the second phase onwards, the site area increased steeply to at least 3 million square meters. And at the turn of the second and third phases, the Erlitou site began to build a palace city. In addition, the portable artifacts also changed. Specifically, the palace wall about 2 meters wide were built. The closed palace was characterized by the exclusivity and the order to isolate public participation, and the reduction of the remains of daily life, such as wells, indicate that the function of this place tended to be specialized, and reflected the further standardization and the systemization of the ritual system. The abandonment of the palaces 3 and 5 and the construction of the palaces 1, 2, and 4 in the city led to a change from the eastern group of the second phase to the eastern and western axis of the palatial city. In terms of casting technology, only bronze bells could be made in the second phase, but complex 3-dimensional ritual bronzes were cast in the third phase. From the third phase onwards, the number and the types of the ritual jades developed greatly. And together with the bronze vessels, pottery, and liquors became the ritual assemblage of the Erlitou culture, which became the political resilience of the Erlitou culture. Some scholars have studied that the number of the arrowheads in the third phase is about 10 times that of the second phase. which may be related to the Erlitou culture strategic expansion to control some important resources, such as copper and salt. Because in this period, a four-tiered settlement system was basically formed. The settlements of the Erlitou culture, in particular, expanded to the northwest of the site, Zhongtiaoshan Mountain, rich in copper mine. Lies to the northwest of the Erlitou site. So far, trenches have been found in the surface settlements such as the Xiwubi site, the Gucheng Nanguan site, and the Dongxiafeng site in the southern Shanxi province, most likely related to the control of the local important resources. However, in the eastern part, two secondary settlements with walls were constructed during this period. The defensive nature of the walls is very evident, and it is clear that there was some tensions between the Erlitou culture and its eastern contemporaries. However, the Erlitou culture seems to have been more adept at long-distance interaction than its immediate neighbors. At the Dadian site, a lower Xiajiadian culture close to the steppe area, we found a ritual pottery assemblage that is essentially identical to that of the Erlitou site. In addition, elaborated pottery from the Maqiao culture found in the today's Shanghai area and bronze plate from the cultures in the northwest are also present at the Erlitou site. These are in contrast to the Erlitou culture's practice of building walled city to its east side. The Mesoamerican archaeologist Richard Blanton has set up due processual theory to study Mesoamerican culture's political evolutions in the pre-Hispanic period. In short, due processual theory explores two different strategies of the political domain: an exclusive, individually inclined political domination strategy, whereas the other is cooperative, collective inclined political domination strategy. Analyzing the social transformation at the turn of the second and third phases of Erlitou culture, it is clear that its ruling strategies had a tendency to be centralized and exclusive. The social transformation of this period, however, should be the result of the population growth and the increasing centralization of power in the upper class. The introduction of the foreign domesticated plants and animals such as beet, sheep, and cattle, as well as indigenous rice, millet, and soybeans, have become common food resources. And the diversity of the foods increased the nutritional richness of the people's intake and fueled the growth of the population, which reached its peak in the third phase. However, population growth may also have increased instability within the society. As mentioned earlier, in response to this situation, the ruling class chose to strengthen the centralization of power so as to control over production and the distribution, which on the contrary furthered the social division. Specifically, this internal social pressure was mitigated by improving the ritual system, especially through the development of a new smelting and casting industry. On the one hand, through such conspicuous consumption behavior, the authority and ability of the ruling class could be united and demonstrated. The complex section mold casting technique created by combining foreign casting method with the developed local pottery making technique could strengthen the status and the ideology of the ruling class by producing ritual bronzes. Besides, establishing ties with long-distance cultures can likewise increase the prestige of the rulers. However, it is clear that the diplomatic policy of Erlitou culture was mainly based on the export and the reciprocity of ritual artifacts, and the absence of the force and coercion also laid the groundwork for the final collapse of the culture. In the final phase of the Erlitou culture, pottery from the eastern of the Erlitou culture was found in the palatial city. The palaces were largely abandoned, with only the bronze and the turquoise workshops remaining in use. The sediments in the Luoyang Basin that can be identified with the early Erligang culture have been reduced by nearly 60% compared to the first phase of the Erlitou culture. It is clear that the Erlitou culture failed stopping the attack from the Eastern culture. Although cities were once built for defense, this diplomatic strategy ultimately proved to be a failure. Long-distance allies didn't help to keep their eastern enemy in check. However, the ritual system represented by the ritual bronzes established by the Erlitou culture was inherited and carried forward by the subsequent Erligang culture as a political resilience, which eventually formed a unique cultural resilience of the Chinese Bronze Age and even influenced the history of the subsequent Chinese dynasties. At the same time, however, the Erligang rulers also drew the lessons of the collapse of the Erlitou culture and expanded by force and coercion, which embedded in the standard production of the pottery and the construction of the walled cities, and finally built what was probably the first Chinese empire. In the long run, however, the ritual system established by the Erlitou culture had a far more profound impact than conquest by coercion. Although archaeology can only provide material evidence, the ideological system embodied in the material can provide important lessons, not only for the people of the time, but also for the understanding of the resilient traditions for today's society. At last, as mentioned before, archaeology plays a very important role in disseminating knowledge of the resilient traditions of the vanished civilizations, but we still have a long way to go. Thank you.